All right, everyone, welcome back to the next Coliseum Breakout Hackathon workshop. Today we've got Daniel Leavitt. Dan's a blockchain developer and developer relations engineer at SUI Foundation, where he guides and helps developers build decentralized apps. Today he's here to walk us through using Walrus protocol to redefine what's possible in decentralized storage. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Dan and we can get started.
All right. Hey, everyone. Let me get my slide shared. All righty. Hey, everyone. Thank you, Mike, for the introduction. Like Mike said, I'm Daniel. I'm one of the DevRel engineers at SUI and Walrus. I work very closely with both teams, so I can help you with either. But today I'm going to be focusing on Walrus. Today I'll be introducing you all to Walrus, telling you what it is, why we built it, how we built it, and showing you some of the use cases we see today and showing you how you can get started. Alrighty. So blockchains have helped us decentralize the internet, but there are still a lot of issues we see today with like the way we interact with each other and with apps on the internet. So we have these really powerful Web3 primitives such as decentralized apps and NFTs, but all of these primitives have one really severe insecurity, and it's that they typically rely heavily on centralized data. Take a decentralized app, for example. Like the functionality is powered by a smart contract, and this is really good. Smart contracts are censorship resistant. They're typically trustless. They're transparent. You can see everything that's going on. The issue is that most of these dApps, the websites, are hosted on centralized servers. So at any point, the centralized server, for one reason or another, could go down, and all of the users would lose access to the site. And this essentially results in the loss or the losing access to any funds that are in this dApp. And then similarly with NFTs, most like whether it's images or some other sort of metadata, any data that's typically associated with an NFT is usually hosted on some sort of centralized server. And again, relying on centralized data. So you could wake up one day and your NFT, hopefully not too expensive, could not point to an image anymore. And we've actually seen, I don't know if you've seen this happen recently with some companies and some NFT collections. People are losing access to their images, and this is really not good. You may have your own copy of the image, but if you ever wanted to sell the NFT or share it around and show other people how cool the image or whatever metadata is associated with that NFT, you won't be able to do that anymore. And this problem goes beyond Web3 as well. When we interact in typical Web 2 spaces, we are generating data and uploading data that's being stored on platforms that we do not have control over. We have to trust these big data companies to behave the way they promise to, but we've seen time and time again that this trust can be broken. And this is exactly why we created blockchains to begin with, is to not have to trust these big data companies to store our data. We see at Miston Labs and at SUI and Walrus, we see that blockchains have done so much to help us decentralize the internet, but the work isn't done. We need a separate layer for decentralized data. So this is our mission. So for those of you who aren't familiar, Miston Labs is the team that built the SUI blockchain, and then they also built Walrus. So I'll be focusing on Walrus, and you can look at, so basically we see blockchains, and any blockchain really, whichever one you prefer to build on, we see those as the global coordination layer. So it provides primitives for data or for ownership on the internet. We have smart contracts, NFT. This is all decentralized and trustless. And this is great, but that is not all that the internet needs to support. the internet is full of rich media content. So long form text, images, videos, bulk application data like AI training sets. There's all kinds of data, and this data cannot live on blockchains. There needs to be a separate layer for all of this data. So we see blockchains like Solana as the global coordination layer, and we are providing the global data layer. So we're providing Walrus as this global data layer, and we're making sure that it's decentralized, it's resilient, it's cost effective, and it's programmable. All right. So I'm going to show you all how Walrus works and how we can deliver on these 4 promises, how we made sure that Walrus is both cost effective and resilient, but at the same time decentralized and programmable. So first and foremost, Walrus is very cost effective. We have a constant replication factor about 4 to 5x. So typically on other decentralized storage networks, every node is required to have all of the data. So you have full replication at every node. So this is very costly and also slows down the network. But due to the novel erasure coding algorithm that the Walrus core team built in-house, we're able to cap this at a constant factor of 4 to 5x, which makes us very cost effective. In addition to that, because we have such a low, or we have a constant replication factor, it actually makes Walrus much more scalable. You can add nodes to the network and without sacrificing performance or capacity. Adding more nodes, because every node doesn't have to store the same amount of data or the same data itself. The more nodes we have adds more read and write throughput for the network. So despite us not having full copies on every node, we're still highly resilient. Cost effective is one of the major pillars, and being resilient is another pillar at Walrus. So you would still be able to write to the network if a third of the network is down, and you'd still be able to retrieve any data that you've stored on the network, even if 2/3 of the network is down. So over 60% of the network can go down, and you'd still be able to retrieve your data. For those, some of you might know, but Walrus uses the SUI blockchain as the coordination layer. There was a few reasons that we did this, but basically this results in availability proofs and storage capacity being tokenized as assets on SUI. So you can imagine future use cases such as smart contract based data management or data rental protocols, as well as integrations into DeFi and oracles and other areas. So Walrus was able to be cost effective, resilient, and programmable, but still managed to be decentralized. So you don't have to trust a single entity. There is no single Walrus entity. All of the nodes are like decentralized players in these networks, and we have our own Walrus token, which is used for payments, staking, governance, and also making making sure that every single node is storing what they're supposed to at all times. So this is how this is a very brief look into how Walrus is built, what we're prioritizing, and how we're delivering on the promises of being the next global data layer, or the global data layer for the internet, the decentralized internet. So some of you may be wondering, like, what about privacy? Because almost every app that's building on Walrus that's handling a lot of user data typically doesn't want this data to be public. So it is important to note that everything that is stored on Walrus is public by default. So this means that if you want anything on that you store on Walrus to be only accessible by certain people, then you need to encrypt this yourself before uploading. And you can use any sort of encryption service you want. The team at Mistin Labs is also building a product called Seal, which is a service that will allow you to encrypt data that before you publish it to Walrus, and allow you to gate this data either with access control based on SUI blockchain accounts, or the existence of certain tokens, or like being able to pay some crypto before like accessing the encryption, kind of like a subscription model. So I provided a QR code in the corner there, which is, this points to a demo that we have for Seal that's on testnet right now. I'd highly recommend checking it out and seeing what you can do with Walrus with encryption. Alrighty, so Walrus is a really new protocol. We just launched mainnet about a month ago. We've been on testnet and devnet for about a year before that. And so we're a pretty young ecosystem. We're very young, but that said, we've seen a lot of cool use cases start to come up, and I'm going to be showing you some of those today. All right, so Tusky is one of the first applications that ever started building on Walrus. They actually kind of rebranded their whole company to fit the whole Walrus theme, as you can see with the tusks and everything. But what Tusky provides is a service that's similar to Google Drive, except the main difference is you're storing all the data that's being stored is being stored on Walrus in a decentralized manner instead of being stored on some sort of centralized server somewhere. So that means if like Tusky were to ever go down, or you have any like network issues or something, you'd still be able to access this data directly with Walrus. So I highly recommend you checking that out. You can find this project at tusky.io. And I'm actually going to be talking about them later in this presentation, because in addition to their consumer-based application, they actually have a lot of nice developer tooling as well for those of you who want to build on top of Walrus. So I'm going to be showing you a demo how to build with Tusky in a little bit. All right, and next we have Walrus Sites. Walrus Sites, I think, is probably the best example out there right now of utilizing the programmability side of Walrus. So Walrus Sites allows you to deploy websites onto Walrus. So how this looks is you would build a static build of whatever website, and this can be a dApp, like a Solana dApp, for example, with like Wallet Connect and everything. So you would upload the static files to Walrus, and then we host a few portals, which are essentially domains that will render the app that you have uploaded to Walrus. And currently, we allow custom domains using SUI and S names. But I think that one possible use case in the future would be migrating or expanding this to support Solana domain names as well. And actually, I'll talk about this later in a few slides. All right, and this is a third example of what we see on Walrus today. So this project's called Snow Reads, and it's really simple. It's just a curated collection of scientific papers, and all of these, each paper is stored on Walrus, and then the site itself is stored as a Walrus site. So this whole project, end to end, its data and its app is all stored on Walrus. So it's like censorship resistance to the max here. So no matter what, as long as a third of the network is still up, you'd still be able to access all of this scientific findings. All right, so those were the use cases. And at this point, I'm going to show you how to start building with Walrus. At the end of the day, Walrus is purely or basically just a data availability layer, but built in a decentralized manner. So building on Walrus should be very simple. It's almost a matter of just uploading and reading data from and to Walrus. So I hope you guys can see how easy it is yourselves. So there's a few ways to start integrating with Walrus. We have our SDKs. We have a TypeScript SDK that's already up and running, and we're currently working, and we will have a Rust SDK that's coming out very soon. We have some unofficial SDKs that are managed by the community, and then Tusky also has their own TypeScript SDK. And I highly recommend checking out the Tusky one first. In my opinion, it's the easiest one for non-SUI native developers to use because you don't need any SUI or Walrus tokens to start developing. You can do it kind of out of the box with either an email or your Phantom wallet, which I will actually show you in a little bit. We have the Walrus CLI. The CLI can be used to manually query the network information, read or write blobs, query blob statuses and stuff like that. And then we also have HTTP APIs. So we run a Walrus testnet as well as the Walrus mainnet. So on testnet, we have a list of aggregator URLs, which are used to read data from Walrus testnet, as well as publisher URLs that are used to write data to the testnet for free. So if you're looking to quickly integrate Walrus into a project that you're building for the Breakout hackathon, you can use these HTTP APIs really quickly right out of the box, and you're good to go. And then when you're ready to migrate to mainnet, all you have to do is we still support or provide free aggregators, free reading URLs, but you'll have to set up your own publisher since writing to mainnet will actually cost money. So you can set up your own publisher either with the CLI or the SDK. So you can, if you're familiar with Rust, you can eventually use the Rust SDK to set up your own publisher with its own logic. For example, like you could have a publisher as a service for Solana developers where you accept Solana as payment instead of SUI. So this is a potential infrastructure project you could build for Walrus and Solana. All right, so I'm gonna take a break from talking to let you guys try this out yourself. So if you'd like, take out your phones and scan this QR code. It will take you to one of the an example app that we have on Walrus. It uses those free testnet aggregators and publisher URLs that I just mentioned, and allows you to upload images to Walrus. So go ahead, scan this QR code, navigate to the page, and try uploading for the first time. And keep in mind that whatever you upload to Walrus will be there and will be accessible by anyone. So just remember that. And for those of you who are on the app right now, you'll see there's an epoch option. So you can determine how long you want your data to be available on Walrus. We don't have any forced permanence or anything like that. We allow you to pay just for what you're looking for. So for example, one epoch on mainnet is about 2 weeks. So if you only need to store your data for 2 weeks, then you just need to pay a little bit for one epoch. But if you want your data to be there for more permanent, you can set it up so that you set it for the max amount of epochs, and then you can always update the lease on the Walrus blob as well. So you can kind of keep it there for as long as you're paying for it. So yeah, I hope you guys all gave it a try, and hopefully you guys were able to upload some images to Walrus. And yeah. All right, so I have a few technical demos, just to show you what it looks like to start building on Walrus, so you're more familiar. All of these videos I have YouTube links to. I can share it with you guys, but also this is recorded, so you can watch it from here as well. So this demo is about how to use Walrus, use the CLI to set up your own publisher. So let me play this here. Step is to make sure you have the Walrus CLI installed. So I'm going to be using these commands that you can see here above. I already have the Walrus CLI installed, so you're not going to see a difference in the version on my end. But if you are updating, this is how you'll be able to check the previous and the version afterwards. So you go through the installation process, and the installation process includes installing the CLI as well as updating the client config.yaml. All right, so once we have the Walrus, we can go ahead and look at all the commands we have to run, and the one we'll be using today is the publisher command. So these are all of the arguments that we have in the publisher command. I'm going to be using two today. I'm going to be using the sub wallets directory. This specifies the directory that we want to use, which will hold all of the sub wallets that will be in charge of paying for the data being published to Walrus. And then we have the N clients. This is the number of wallets that we're going to create. And in this case, for testing purposes, I'll just create one. So the publisher is up and running. So we can go ahead and copy the address here, which we will use to start uploading blobs to Walrus with. So I'm going to create a second tab here and start uploading. So I'm going to run a curl command to upload. In this case, I'm just going to upload a test string. So I'm going to copy the address, and then I will paste it here, and I will also append it with v1/blobs because this is the command you have to run when you run a put in order to upload blobs to Walrus. And in this case, I'm just going to store some text. So we can see on the left, the Walrus publisher has been, it started spinning, and it's in the process of uploading this. I'm going to speed this up for a second just because this one took a little bit longer than expected, but we'll see some quicker uploads shortly. Okay, we're almost done. It's currently sending out the slivers throughout the network. All right, cool. So we just received the results, and this will give us the ID of the SUI object that's associated with this blob, as well as the blob ID, which we can use to identify and read this blob later from the Walrus network. So I'm going to try again, this time with an actual image to see what it would be like with some bigger data. So I'm going to use the upload file flag this time, and I will select an image that I have in my documents here. Okay, so I will include this file. This is a PNG, and we can see it's running. I've uploaded it. And as you can see, this one's going a lot faster. All right, great. So this one, like I said, we received it a lot faster this time. So again, this will return us the information such as the SUI object ID as well as the blob ID. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this blob ID, and then I'll navigate to one of the Walrus explorers we have and look up this blob ID just to confirm and show you guys that this was uploaded. All right, great. So we can see, like I said, the SUI object ID, we can see the space being reserved for this blob, and then the blob being certified on the network as well. So this shows and proves to us that this data is now available on Walrus until it expires. Great. So this is how easy it is to set up your own publisher.
All right, cool.
With the
I hope you guys could hear the audio. If not, feel free to rewatch the video with the original YouTube link. But yeah, so that's how easy it was to set up your own publisher via the Walrus CLI. And then on like my other side, I was uploading text as well as images to Walrus. So you can set up this publisher. And like I said, you could even set this up as a service for other developers in the Solana ecosystem if you wanted. Like I'll talk about that later. Okay, and then we have this demo, which shows you how easy it is to upload a website to Walrus. So, and this there's a guide for this as well. If you want to scan this QR code, I'll leave this open at the end so you guys can scan this. But let me get this up.
Hey everyone, I'm Daniel, one of the DevRel engineers at Walrus, and today I'm going to be showing you how to fully decentralize your websites by hosting them on Walrus. The first step is you need to have a website that you want to deploy. In this case, we are going to use one of the template SUI apps that we have. So we go ahead and download this template. All right, we'll select the default one, and we'll call our app test website. All right, then we'll navigate to the directory that we just created. All right, and then we can install the package.
And then once the package is installed, I'll actually build a local instance just so you can see what the website will look like at the end. All right, so this is our website. We aren't going to actually use it until it's deployed on Walrus, but I wanted to show you what it looks like so you know what to expect. So now let's get rid of this instance that we have, and we will want to generate a static build of our website. So we can do this with pnpm build, and this will generate a static build which will contain like the HTML file, the CSS file, as well as like the JavaScript. So now we need to make sure that you have the site builder CLI installed. I already have it installed, so I'm going to show you how to update it, and it's the same process for either. So we can see I have this current version. I'm going to run this script that I'm showing above here. It's going to change a little bit based on the system of device you have, but it should be pretty much the same sort of flow. All right, and then once it's installed, we can check the version again and see that it indeed has changed. Yeah, and then once we have the site builder, we also need to download the latest config file, which has all of the addresses of the deployed Walrus packages on both SUI mainnet and testnet. So we just downloaded that, and I will show you what it would look like here. Now that we have the site builder installed, we can go ahead and see what commands we have available. And the command that we're going to use right now is publish, which allows us to publish a new site. And so let's look at the arguments that we can pass in. So at first we're going to need to pass in the config file that we downloaded. This is just to help the site builder know like which packages to use on SUI. And then we will use the publish command. And then we need to set the number of epochs. This is how long the site will be available on Walrus, and I'm just going to set it to 1 epoch, which is equivalent to 1 week. And then the last thing we need to set is the directory that contains the static build of the website. So we've already hit enter, and we can see the process for storing resources on Walrus has already started. This will just take a second to store the 3 files that we have in our build. Okay, so now it's gone through. And before we're able to view the site, we need to copy this new site object ID that was given to us and assign it to a SUINS name. We're going to be able to use SUINS to have a specific domain name for our new Walrus site. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the SUINS website, connect my wallet, and I'm going to buy a new SUINS name. And keep in mind that this is on mainnet. You can do it on testnet, but the current portals only support mainnet. So I'm going to go ahead and buy test website. So like I said, there are ways to deploy websites using Walrus testnet, but there are currently no portals that allow you to view these sites on browsers unless you host this yourself. I will be working on a resource that will show you how to host these sites on testnet so you can do more testing before you have to deploy your site to mainnet. Cool, so we'll go ahead and approve this transaction. All right, so now we have our new SUINS name, and you can see that there's an option to connect it to a Walrus site. So right now this is empty. We're going to go back, fetch the address that we had deployed, and then connect it. So I have the address copied, so I can go and link to Walrus site, paste in that address, and then hit apply. And this will require us to sign another transaction since this is an update on SUI. All right, great. So the Walrus site ID is set for this test website domain name. So we can actually go ahead and go to testwebsite.wall.app. .wall.app is the name of the portal that we're currently using to display this website. And you can go see, this is the same website I showed you earlier, except now it's live and deployed. So we can go ahead and connect our wallet just like you will on any other apps. And then you can see here, it's querying all of the objects owned by my...
So yeah, this demo was just to show you how to like build your own static versions of whatever site you're building, like for the hackathon or any site you wanted to upload to Walrus, and show you how easy it is. And like just as a reminder, like I used SUINS for the domain name right now. That's because the existing portals only support SUINS name. But I think like one really cool use case would be to set up different portals for other chains, so that way like Solana developers can connect it with their Solana domain names instead. And this is actually pretty easy to do. The site builder CLI allows you to set up your own local portals. So if you were to just host a portal, a Solana friendly portal on a server, and then supply this as a service to other developers, I think this would be like a great infrastructure use case for both Solana and Walrus. I've had a lot of builders actually ask me for this personally. So there's definitely a demand for this if you're interested in building that. All right. So last but not least, we have the Tusky demo. I actually think that this one is really important for anyone that's really interested in starting to build with Walrus. I think this is the easiest way to get started as a Solana developer. You don't need any SUI, no SUI wallets, no Walrus tokens. All you need is an email to sign up for like a Tusky free an account, and you get a gigabyte of development storage to use for free. So I'll show you this here.
Daniel, we don't have the audio coming through. Can you just kind of walk us through what this video is showing
Oh,
as we go?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, so yeah, I'll talk through it. So you can go to the Tusky uh, website here, and you can connect with like a Gmail account. You'll see in this example that I'm actually connecting with a Phantom account. Phantom supports the Suite network, so you can connect, make an account with that. So I'm just going to enter my Phantom password here. All right, just sign a message just to confirm. I'm going to skip this. And so, like I said, it's similar to Google Drive. So you can create these vaults, and every vault can like hold folders and files where you can store information. So like you could like if you have a few NFT collections, you can create a vault per NFT collection to store all of the images, for example. So Tusky has its own dedicated docs page for their SDK. So I'm basically going to just follow along with that today. So I'm setting up a new TypeScript node currently. Cool. And then once the node project is set up, I'm just going to follow along this tutorial where I import the Tusky package. Yep. And then let me open the actual index file, or I will in a sec. Yeah. So I'm going to open this up and start setting up the Tusky SDK. Okay, so the first step, after you get the TypeScript project set up, you have to go back to the Tusky portal and set up a new developer API key in the account. So this is really easy to do. You can generate this, and like I said, you can generate this with a free account, so you don't have to like put any money into this upfront. And then I'm going to create just a main function just to run all the asynchronous functions here. Okay, then let's go back to the docs, and then I'm essentially going to just copy this entire snippet here. This will show us how to create a new vault and then upload some files to it. So this is where we can determine the name for the vault. I'm just going to call it NFT collection 1. And then
Yeah, so at this point, like, you could have a separate vault for like each project you want to upload to Walrus, and you also have like additional options to provide. Like, you could have this encrypted if you want. So if you wanted to secure the data that's being stored to Tusky, you can encrypt this. You can also add like a description here as well. But since this is an NFT collection, we're going to keep this as public. All right, so now I'm going to upload 3 different files to this vault. I got the vault ID when I created this new vault, so I'm going to use that to upload. And then the path is just the global path on your machine for the file you want to upload. So I'm going to include that in a second here. Just fetching this the path to paste in there. Okay, cool. And I'm going to do this in parallel for a few different files here. Okay, cool. So this is kind of, I just create the new vault and then I upload some files. And then I'm just going to make a log saying like finished. So you could see like how this would apply. Like if you're actually creating like an NFT collection with like thousands of images, you can upload these pretty quickly. And you'll see like I just started running this. It's only going to take about 6 seconds to run to upload these files. So as soon as they're uploaded, I'm going to actually go back to the Tusky portal and view these. So yeah, so now you can see like the vaults actually got updated and it has this new NFT collection 1. So I'm going to open that up and see what's in there. All right, so yeah, you can see that the 3 files that I just uploaded are there now. I'm going to just make sure these all got rendered correctly. So yeah, this is the first image, and then the second image, and then the third. So you can see like this is a successful, I was able to successfully upload these to Walrus. And one thing to note is that right now, or I'm talking with the Tusky team, and they're adding a feature probably going to be added like within a week that will allow you to create public facing URLs per file in a vault. So this would complete the like NFT experience where you upload all of these images to Walrus, and then each NFT image will have its own URL, which you can submit in the NFT itself. So yeah, this is an example. Oh, let me go back. So yeah, that's just an example of how you can start building on Walrus without any SUI wallets, without SUI or without Walrus any tokens at all. So all you need is you just need the Phantom wallet, and you just need to enable the SUI network in the Phantom wallet. Yeah. All right, cool. So I hope those examples were helpful in like showing you how you could get started and like getting you familiar with what it looks like to start building on Walrus, and how easy it is, because at the end of the day, it is just uploading and reading from the Walrus network. So pretty straightforward. So how to get started, I'd recommend following along with these guides. Unfortunately, the audio wasn't able to play, so I'd recommend checking it out with the audio on the previous videos. Getting familiar with the CLI, the Tusky SDK in specific, as well as the publishers if you wanted to create like a publisher as a service for some Solana developers. If you're interested, I'd highly recommend checking out the white paper. You can get a deeper dive into how the protocol works on a deeper level, as well as like taking a look at the smart contracts if you're interested. And yeah, I would, for like the hackathon and just in general, if you are building a project on Solana or managing a project or a product that's dealing with a lot of data, but you want to do this in a more decentralized manner, I think migrating the project to Walrus would be really great for your project and for the community. So then you never run into these issues that happen with existing NFT collections, and you never like lose trust with your community. And I also, like I said earlier, the ecosystem is very young. Like we just launched mainnet a month ago. so that there's a huge demand for more infrastructure tooling as well as services, because not everyone's going to want to provide or build their own publisher for every use case they have. They're going to want to just like plug and play with a publisher that they can just pay for. So I highly recommend Walrus is the sponsor for the infrastructure track at Breakout. So like we are really excited to see what you build, especially for the Solana community. We want Walrus to benefit everyone in the web community, not even just Web3, but Web2 and as well. So whether like you're building on any stack on the internet or you're just a user, we want Walrus to benefit you. So we're really excited to see more infrastructure projects built for other communities such as the Solana community. And this can include a Walrus sites portal that supports Solana domain names. This can be a custom Walrus publisher as a service that supports Solana for payments, and as all kinds of other things as well. All right. So yeah, like I said, if you want to dive deeper into Walrus, I'd highly recommend checking out the white paper. We also have the Walrus docs on this other link as well. If you want to like just get general information or share Walrus with some of your friends, you can just share the walrus.xyz link in the middle, and that is Walrus's homepage. All right. I'd be happy to take any questions or address any questions that have already been asked in the chat.
Yeah, there was one question asking about how to check the uploaded data. So I'm assuming that's for the Walrus scan. Could you just talk about that a bit?
Yeah. So I think right now there's currently only one Walrus Explorer, but I imagine there will be more in the future. But yeah, so it's sort of like how blockchains have explorers. Walrus also has one. Let me actually find the link and share this in the chat as well. All right. Can I message this? Yeah, I think so. Okay, cool. Yeah. So this message from Daniel here, this is the link for the Walrus Explorer that we have. So this, like, you can see all of like the current space being used in Walrus, as well as like all of the blobs being uploaded. So this is where you can verify that your data is there. I don't think that the Explorer like will actually display the image, because technically it's not, every blob's not going to be an image. Like the Explorer would have to kind of assume some what the data type is. So like it would kind of break things if it tried to render a video as an image or whatever. But at any point you can use the CLI to read that data back to verify that it's uploaded. But yeah, so.
Yeah, another question we had is, can you explain the storage time, stored until epoch, and how you select how long that data is going to remain on Walrus?
Yeah. So you probably saw this like stored until epoch like 24 if you were using the like publisher app I sent you guys. So whether you're uploading via a publisher, the CLI, or like even Tusky, or actually maybe not Tusky. Tusky might manage this for you, but in most of the spots when you upload to Walrus, you have to specify how long you want that data to be available for. So, and like I said, mainnet epochs are 2 weeks. So if you store your data or like you upload an image for one epoch, it will be there for, I guess, not a maximum of 2 weeks, but for as long as that epoch will last. So like if like you go to Walrus Scan right now, we're currently on epoch 3, or let me go to testnet since you were using testnet. So like we're on epoch 23. And like if you had uploaded using the publisher example app, it'll say stored until epoch 24. So once we've reached epoch 24, your data won't be guaranteed anymore. So at that point, you have to like
up the lease on your Walrus data if you want it to be stored for longer. Right. I also see a question about the white paper. I don't. It's the white paper is very very detailed, so I probably won't have time or like the bandwidth to go over it in the presentation right now. But I highly recommend checking it out. I can go back to that page if you guys want to see those links again. But yeah, and actually, I'm gonna leave my Telegram um, in the chat here, so that way, if you do have any questions about the white paper or about Walrus in general, or you're running into development issues, I'd be happy to help. Like I said earlier, I'm one of the DevRel engineers, so helping developers is kind of my main purpose. So yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any questions or anything. Let me see. Yeah, so the question was, you demo tusky.io during upload. I assume it can pull down for read as well. And yes, so the question or the answer is yes. There are functionalities to read data from the TypeScript SDK, and Tusky also provides an API, some API routes, HTTP APIs for this as well, where as long as you have the file ID, you would be able to read the data of that file. My X is actually the same. If I'm not mistaken, it's also Dan the Man 8300. So same for Telegram and X. And yes, that functionality is available right now on Tusky. The public URL hopefully can be available or will be available within a week or two. I know Tusky is working on some higher priority things at the moment, but I talked to the team and they definitely have had a lot of asks about that. So yeah. I see someone talking about like the self-healing recovery. I'm not sure if this is a question, but just to reiterate, kind of part of Walrus's secret sauce is or not secret sauce, but like superpower is the erasure coding algorithm. So what this does essentially, in a very high level, when you upload a piece of data to Walrus, regardless of what it is, that data is replicated 4 to 5x, and then it's split into different shards, and those shards are distributed among the network. So every node will most likely hold a few pieces of your data. And basically, like if a node were to go down, you can use all of the other shards to remake the shards that the node that went down had. So that's kind of like when you see like self-healing recovery, like in certain quotes with Walrus, that's what it's talking about. And again, like the white paper can go into this in more detail. Awesome. Yeah, and apologies again. I didn't realize the audio wasn't coming in, but I'll provide the link for those as well. Let me find those really quick. And again, like at any point, I can share resources if you message me on Telegram as well. But yeah, again, just to stress, like I said, Walrus is a very young ecosystem, and I think that there's a lot of potential for infrastructure projects. That's why we want to focus on infrastructure, and we're sponsoring the infrastructure track, because we want this to be available for every builder on Web3 and Web2. And we think we really like the Solana ecosystem, and we want everything to be available there as much as it is on SUI. So let me share these here. Okay, so this is one of the links to the YouTube videos. This is actually showing you how to host your own local portal, which this would be a great resource for any of you guys interested in setting up a Solana friendly portal. But my YouTube channel has all of the other videos. Whenever I create videos, I just store them there. So this would be the best place to look. Yeah. Well, I don't see any other questions, but I really appreciate like you guys listening, taking the time to listen. I know this was recorded, but I love being engaged with the audience. So I really appreciate you guys all coming and making it here. It looks like you're muted, Mike.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. I was just saying thanks for taking the time out today to tell us about Walrus and hopefully open some eyes to it and get some usage.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you guys. I'm excited to see what you guys build.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. See you next time.